See list of Rosa species. A rose is a woody perennial flowering plant of the genus Rosa. In the family Rosaceae, or the flower it bears, there are over 300 species and tens of thousands of cultivars. They form a group of plants that can be erect shrubs, climbing, or trailing, with stems that are often armed with sharp prickles. Flowers vary in size and shape and are usually large and showy, in colors ranging from white through yellows and reds. Most species are native to Asia, with smaller numbers native to Europe, North America, and northwestern Africa. Species, cultivars and hybrids are all widely grown for their beauty and often are fragrant. Roses have acquired cultural significance in many societies. Rose plants range in size from compact, miniature roses, to climbers that can reach 7 meters in height. Different species hybridize easily, and this has been used in the development of the wide range of garden roses. The name rose comes from Latin rosa, which was perhaps borrowed from oscan, from Greek rodon rodon, itself borrowed from Old Persian wrt, related to Avestan word delta Sogdian ward, Parthian war. The leaves are borne alternately on the stem. In most species they are 5 to 15 cm leaflets and basal stipules. The leaflets usually have a serrated margin, and often a few small prickles on the underside of the stem. Most roses are deciduous but a few are evergreen or nearly so. The flowers of most species have 5 petals, with the exception of Rosa cercia, which usually has only 4. Each petal is divided into 2 distinct lobes and is usually white or pink, though in a few species yellow or red. Beneath the petals are 5 sepals. These may be long enough to be visible when viewed from above and appear as green points, alternating with the rounded petals. There are multiple superior ovaries that develop into achenes. Roses are insect-pollinated in nature. The aggregate fruit of the rose is a berry-like structure called a rose hip. Many of the domestic cultivars do not produce hips, as the flowers are so tightly petaled that they do not provide access for pollination. The hips of most species are red, but a few and Ragazza rose are very rich in vitamin C, among the richest sources of any plant. The hips are eaten by fruit-eating birds such as thrushes and waxwings, which then disperse the seeds in their droppings. Some birds, particularly finches, also eat the seeds. The sharp growths along a rose stem, though commonly called thorns, are technically prickles, outgrowths of the epidermis. Unlike true thorns, which are modified stems, rose prickles are typically sickle-shaped hooks, which aid the rose in hanging onto other vegetation when growing over it. Some species such as Rosa ragazza and Rosa pimpernellifolia have densely packed straight prickles, probably an adaptation to reduce browsing by animals, but also possibly an adaptation to trap wind-blown sand and so reduce erosion and protect their roots. Despite the presence of prickles, roses are frequently browsed by deer. A few species of roses have only vestigial prickles that have no points. About 50 million years ago, the first rose in the Americas were found in modern-day Colorado in the United States. Today's garden roses come from 18th century China. Among the old Chinese garden roses, the Old Blush group is the most primitive, while newer groups are the most diverse. The genus Rosa is composed of 140 to 180 species and divided into 4 subgenera. Roses are best known as ornamental plants grown for their flowers in the garden and sometimes indoors. They have been also used for commercial perfumery and commercial cut flower crops. Some are used as landscape plants, for hedging and for other utilitarian purposes such as game cover and slope stabilization. The majority of ornamental roses are hybrids that were bred for their flowers. A few, mostly species roses are grown for attractive or scented foliage. Ornamental roses have been cultivated for millennia, with the earliest known cultivation known to date from at least 500 BC in Mediterranean countries, Persia, and China. It is estimated that 30 to 35,000 rose hybrids and cultivars have been bred and selected for garden use as flowering plants. Most are double-flowered with many or all of the stamens having morphed into additional petals. In the early 19th century, the Empress Josephine of France patronized the development of rose breeding at her gardens at Malmaison. As long ago as 1840, a collection numbering over 1,000 different cultivars, varieties and species was possible when a rosarium was planted by Laudager's nursery for Abney Park Cemetery, an early Victorian garden cemetery and arboretum in England. Roses are a popular crop for both domestic and commercial cut flowers. Generally, they are harvested and cut when in bud, and held in refrigerated conditions until ready for display at their point of sale. In temperate climates, cut roses are often G.